I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Today we're going to look at the new PSE Focus XL long draw. Now the XL means extra long, is 40 inches axle to axle. It's a 8-inch brace height, shoots at 312 feet per second, and a draw length goes out to, which is why you've got a little tag on the bow, 33.5 inches. So if you're the height of a basketballer, I was going to say built like a basketballer, I'm like, what does that mean? If you're as tall as a basketballer and they have that big long draw length, then this bow is suitable for you. Now this bow is built specifically for target archery. In Australia it sells for around 1,400 Australian dollars. In America it sells for about 1,100 American dollars. Now PSE have a number of target bows in their range which are similar to this, and I want to talk about the differences between this bow and those bows, and then we want to compare this bow to those bows and sort of see which one is best for you. Now when you're looking at a target bow, what you're looking at is a bow which is forgiving to shoot, and it's going to give you the best accuracy that there is, and you need it to be in that draw length range, and this goes from 28 to 33.5. So if you're 27 inches, you need the other PSEs. Now the other PSEs produced, the other PSE target bows, the Supra Focus is 37 inches axle to axle. This is 40 inches, so 3 inches shorter. The Focus has a smaller brace height, so it's going to be faster. It has the same cam system, and we're going to talk about that. The other bow produced by PSE is the Focus XL in the short cam, which is the EM cam, and that is this. So this is the Supra Focus EM cam. You can see it's smaller than the normal Evolve cam. So shorter draw length, half an inch shorter in brace height, and the reason for that is because the cams on the XL long draw is slightly bigger here, so you get about half an inch extra brace height. So 8 inches on the long draw. On the short draw version, 7.5. Now the longer brace height is going to reduce your speed by 10 feet per second roughly, but it's going to make you a little bit more steady. So when you're aiming, you're going to get less shakes like this, and I'm exaggerating, but obviously. But a 5-inch brace height bow, so shorter here, is a little bit less forgiving, so it's more susceptible for shakes, movement. The longer inch brace bows are a little bit steadier. So when you're picking a bow for target shooting or 3D or even hunting, you've got to say, well, what sort of brace height do I want? What sort of speed do I want? Do I care about speed? And what's the ideal bow for me? So the other bow in the range is the PSE Perform, which is this bow. Now the PSE Perform is a shoot-through riser. It has the same cams as the Supra Focus XL long draw. It is 40 inches axle to axle, slightly quicker because it's about a 7-inch brace height versus an 8-inch brace height. And I'm going to hold these bows up to one another with the limb pocket, and you can see the difference between them. I'm going to try and get those limb pockets sort of set up, and you can see the brace height on the Focus is pointed forward. As far as the limbs are concerned, by that far, it's a huge difference. Now I've shot all of these bows and I own all of them except for this one. This is the only Supra Focus I don't own. I own the Perform, I own the Supra Focus, which I shot last year. I've been shooting the Focus short draw version XL for pretty much about 6 months now. So this is the only one I don't own, and it's the only one I haven't shot so far, and I haven't shot it before this video. So it's a complete discovery session for me. Okay, so with PSE, each limb is a different poundage. The poundage is written on the back of the limb here. This is to keep your cams aligned. Now also to help in keeping your cams aligned as you draw back is you have a yoke system here to pull evenly on the limbs. Now PSE have added the really thick axle. I think it's a 1/4 inch axle. Most companies use the thinner axle. Now that stops your limbs twisting here as you pull it back. So in your earlier PSEs and other bows, you could see the kind of, it looked like the axle was kind of leaning. So you've got the thicker axles in these. Rotating modules, that's to adjust your draw length. You don't need a bow press to do that. To change the let off, you just move this little draw stop here backwards and forwards. Moving it forward this way reduces your let off. So the focus is adjustable from 65 to 75% in let off. You've got multiple sight holes here to move your sight up or down to where you want it. Now PSE in the 2020 lineup has changed their cable guard. In 2019 it was a flexi cable guard, so it was machined out here to create it to flex. In the 2020 version it's a solid cable rod. Now the reason they changed that from what you would think would be a good idea to reduce torque was they found the solid cable guard was more tunable than the flexible one. Now with the flexible one, depending on your poundage, depending on your draw length, it flexed more or less. So that created some clearance issues and just created some issues overall. So they've gone for a solid cable guard, which is kind of going back to what it was about a year or so before that. You've got a lower mount position here for the lower rear stabilizer if you want it. Normal position there. String stop there, which is pretty standard. These strings are live wire strings. They're made by a computer in the PSE factory as opposed to being made by hand. These bows are pretty well priced in the marketplace for a target bow. I'm going to say it's the lowest cost of the target bows on the market. And some people are going to say, well, the PSE Centrix is cheaper. It's not really this class of bow. I'm going to talk a top end target bow. These bows are winning world championships, winning major events, and they're $1,000 less than the competitors who are equivalent bows. So PSE make really affordable bows in lots of colors. Now I'm going to say I think that PSE should have matching cables with the bows. I can't remember if they do or don't. They used to. I don't think they are now. So I'm going to say that's one thing they should be doing if they're not. But overall, they don't have, in the Perform, you've got this system here that moves backwards and forwards. In the Supra Focus, you don't. And I'm not a fan of moving your limbs left or right, so I'm more than happy for the Focus. So with that, let's try the draw cycle. This bow's set on at 29 inches. I tend to be about 29 or 28 and a half inches in draw length. This bow's set on 60 pounds. Now, as a rule of thumb, the bigger the cam, the smoother the draw cycle is. If you've got a smaller cam, it's a little bit harder to draw. Higher speed bows are harder to draw. This is 312, I think, in speed, so this bow should be very easy to draw. And given it's got a big brace height, 8 inches, basically I'm only going to be drawing this bow back for 21 inches of power, so the draw cycle should be fairly easy. So let's just try it. So it starts off and it feels the same all the way through. I feel like I'm about to hit a valley. I feel like I'm getting into the valley, 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 stop. Now the stop is got through the cables touching on the stops here. It feels very solid. I really can't tell the difference between this and a limb stop as far as the feel of the stop, but some people will prefer the limb stops. The roller cable slides on the PSE are nice. They're smooth. The little rubbers here, I'm going to say I don't know how they wear over time. And let's go and look on my bow that's 2 years old and see how it's worn. This is my PSE Perform. I think it's 2 years old. There's little rubbers on the back, so they haven't worn. It's been a good two years. I've been shooting this bow for at least 2 years and those rubbers haven't worn, but I'm going to say they would be prone to wear. Rubber to me is a wear item. Now the balance on the Perform, you'll see it's very top heavy, and that's because this is a target bow. You're going to fit a big long stabilizer to it and to balance that bow down, so you're going to need less weight at the back with a Supra than a bow that is, you know, balanced straight up. Some of the target bows are balanced, so they just sit there. So with those bows, you're going to need more weight at the back. With this bow, you'll need less weight at the back. The bow itself weighs about 4.7, which is about standard for a target bow. Now you can see when I shoot this bow, it jumps forward, and it's going to jump forward more than a PSE Perform because the limbs are more upright. Now, to me it feels gentle to shoot, and it obviously feels more gentle than the other PSE target bows, and that's because this bow is slower. The draw is very smooth. In fact, I think it's smoother than my Supra short draw, and let's just compare it. So this is my Supra Focus that I've been shooting. I like this bow. I shot my best scores with this bow. I find it extremely forgiving to shoot. I mean, I can shoot really poorly with this bow and shoot really well. If I shoot really well, then I shoot really well. So it's a very forgiving, easy bow to shoot. So with the Supra short draw, the valley field's a little bit shorter, but it's still very similar in draw to the normal XL, to the long draw version. Very hard to pick the difference. Now besides that, the rise is the same, so the only difference being the cam, so the shot's going to feel pretty much the same. Now there's lots of things on forums that if you're a shorter draw, then you should be going for the shorter cams. I don't know why. No one can really explain that. Some people say the bow's more efficient. I think what they're saying when they say it's more efficient, what they're saying is the brace height is shorter, so it's faster. So I've shot bows for 40 odd years, and I really haven't found any difference between big cams and small cams as far as accuracy in my shooting. And I've shot all the bows from little round wheels like that up to the big bow wheels which Martin used to produce. They used to produce little wheels like this for target archery and then big wheels for the 3D, and I shoot about the same scores with them. So with that, let's shoot the bow through a chronograph and see what sort of speeds we get. So the arrows I'm shooting is a gold tip velocity. These weigh 327 grains. The bows are 29 inches at 60 pounds. The faster bows shoot about 300 feet through the chronograph. This is not a faster bow, so probably speeds of 280 is what I'd be expecting. Now with a slower bow, you can actually shoot softer spined arrows. So if you shoot a faster bow, you might have to shoot a 350 spined arrow. With this bow, you might be able to shoot a 400 spined arrow, so a lighter arrow. So speed is not always speed. Speed is more about hitting power. For target archery, I don't know if it's so critical. So let's just see if I can get a speed through the chronograph. .285, and I'm pretty happy with that given all the smoke from all the bushfires, and this place just reeks of smoke. .285 is pretty much what I predicted. So with that, let's set this up for target and shoot 18 meters and see how well I shoot. Now I think I'll shoot pretty well with this because the bow is smooth to draw, big brace height, which means I'm going to be steady, solid draw wall, which is good. And there's no lump when I draw the bow back, so that has all the features for a bow I should shoot well with for target archery. Okay, so we're here to shoot the Supra Focus XL long draw at 18 meters. Now I've sighted the bow in, I've actually hit the 10 in a low 5 o'clock. In fact, my grouping wasn't that good. Now I think part of that is because it's not balanced. So when I shoot this bow, it's not balanced, it's coming backwards. So if you're going to go and try this bow in a store compared to something like the Perform's going to feel better because the Perform is balanced. So if you're going to compare this to like the Elite Cure, or the Elite Result, sorry, that's the target bow, the Result is actually balanced. So if you want to compare like with like, you need to add a stabilizer to balance this bow up. So probably if you want to compare target bows, you're probably best to have the stabilizers on them to balance them up, because this is not going to feel the same. Now the first thing I noticed with this, because of the longer brace height, I was getting none of this. Even in the wind, there's a fair bit of wind around today, I was getting no shaking left to right. So to me, it was more stable left to right than the Focus I currently shoot, which is the short draw version, which is half an inch shorter. It feels more stable. Feels more stable than the 7-inch brace height of the Perform or the Focus. So I don't know how I'm going to shoot as far as groups. I'm going to suggest it's probably not going to be as good because of the balance, or maybe because of the wind. Who knows, I might shoot really well, so let's see how I go. And the first arrow is an absolute shocker. So I was actually aiming up, I'm like, God, this bow is completely steady. Like there's wind around and I'm not even moving, and I shoot a low 8. It's like, I was like, oh, this is going so in the 10. It's like, so doesn't. Now when I shoot the shot, I'm getting a bit of this happen with the grip, you know, with the bow. So I'm getting a bit of left to right movement. Now that will come out when you've got a stabilizer on the bow. That's pretty common when I shoot target bows. I get a shock like that. And a lot of that with this bow is because the bow is not balanced without a stabilizer. So don't know where that one went. I was just watching a podcast from John Dudley, who's just gone to PSE, or joined PSE, and he was talking to Pete Shepley about growing the sport of archery. And what PSE does well, and what John Shepley said, was about PSE has bows for all price points to get people into the sport. And that's what he wanted to do from an owner of a company, get people into the sport of archery. And I think PSE does a good job of that. And I think this bow does a good job of getting people into a good quality target bow at an affordable price. I don't generally have the luxury where people come to me and say, I've got $4,000 to drop on a target setup. Honestly, that doesn't occur to me. It obviously occurs to the other shops, but not to my shop. So the Supra to me is the biggest selling target bow I have by a country mile. It outsells all the rest of the target bows by every other brand by 20 to 1. That's how big a seller the Supra is to in my store. That was all right. That first shot was just a shocker. Now you're going to get bad shots, and I was shooting the other night at home, and I did 3 arrows which were just perfect. They were like inner X's. The arrows are touching. I sent through a picture to one of my friends in Port Pirie, and I said, look at these. Now he didn't see the arrows I shot in the 8 because I didn't send him those pictures. But when I shoot bad shots, I just forget about it. It's like I move on. It's all about repeating the same process and having a good experience with the shot. That's what I focus on. I focus on the perfect shot, and I focus on repeating the perfect shot a number of times. So to me, I always say practice is important. It's important to try and practice a good shot every time to have that consistency. So right now I'm focusing on aiming well, I'm focusing on keeping the shoulder down, I'm focusing on being locked in and being solid in my core. And in fact, right now I'm shooting the best I ever have in my entire life, and I've been shooting for 40 years. So I'm not shooting as much as I used to because I've been really busy with work. But getting back to this bow, it's all very well to buy an expensive target bow, but unless you're going to practice and put the time into your shooting, you're really wasting your money. In the podcast with John Dudley, he's talking about the difference between a hunting bow and setting up a hunting bow for target archery. Now with the 33 from PSE, the next 33, the Evolve 33, I shot that bow extremely well with the target setup, and I shot it extremely well with a hunting setup. So you can shoot really well with all bows. What you're looking for with a target bow is that edge. Like if you could shoot 5 points more or 10 points more with the target bow, if it's a little bit more forgiving, if a little bit less shake with it. With the PSE hunting bows for 2020, they have bigger brace heights, they're a bit slower, a little bit easier to shoot. So to me, they're very much like shooting a target bow. They are very easy to shoot. They're very forgiving to shoot, which is why I shoot similar scores with their hunting bows, with the PSE hunting bows for 2020, as I do the 2020 target lineup. And it was no surprise to me at all that John Dudley picked the 33, the next 33, as his preferred bow in the PSE lineup, because I was like, that's the bow I chose too. What was more of a surprise to me, or maybe not a surprise, was he said with his former contract he wasn't allowed to try other equipment. And that to me gets back to that whole thing why if you're a contracted shooter, a staff shooter, you're not allowed to try other equipment. It's like, I don't know. I think you should shoot what you shoot best with. It may be there's no difference between the equipment, but you should try it. When I try all the different bows, like I shot thousands of shots with that Perform. I shot thousands of shots with the Focus. I scored them all. I just shoot a little bit better with the Focus long draw, sorry, the longer one, the XL, than I did with the other two bows. And I'm talking about 1 point better. It's really not much. And if I could shoot 1 or 2 points better with this bow than the short drill version, I would definitely buy this bow, because that's all I'm looking for, 1 or 2 more points. All right, let's go and see what those arrows are. Okay, so I'm down here at the target. Now now obviously my first shot was a shocker because it was down here and there's another arrow right next to it. But if I exclude those two arrows, the other arrows I can get my finger around, so they're like that tight. So they're good. You know, I've got 2 X's, 2 10s touching, 2 lower 9s, another lower 9, and then the 2 8s. It's not a bad group. And considering I don't have the balance in the bow, and there's actually a fair bit of wind, I'm going to say there's as much wind around today as any time I've done a video. So overall, I'm pretty happy with that group. Does it make me want to shoot this bow for target archery? I'm going to say it does want to make me shoot this bow for target archery compared to my short draw version, because I've got the extra 1/2 inch and I can actually see the difference in the wobble, and I don't have target stabilizers on the bow. Now I do acknowledge the fact it's 10 feet per second slower, but I can shoot a lighter spined arrow to pick up that speed. I'm going to say the draw is pretty similar. When I buy a new bow, because I don't get given bows, I've got to buy a bow, I always think, well, if I'm forking out like $1,500 on a bow, $1,400 on a bow, I've got to think, well, am I going to see a difference in scores? Is it going to be better? And that's what I question with buying a new bow, because I shoot very well with the normal focus as it is. So I suppose what I'm saying when I do this video is, when it comes to buying a new bow and you're thinking, which focus do I buy? Do I buy the little focus, the 37-inch focus, the little one? Do I buy the 40-inch one, or do I buy the 40-inch long draw? I don't know. The difference between 37 and 40 is the angle on the string. I find the short draw a little bit more forgiving as far as, because it's got a bigger brace height. I shot perfectly fine with the focus, and my points difference between the focus, the Perform and the short draw is literally nothing. There's virtually nothing in it. But I think I find myself a lot more accurate with the short draw. And I've shot my best scores with the short draw, the 40-inch version. How much better? Not much, like 1 or 2 points. When I say that, I used to shoot a lot more arrows before when I shot the focus and when I shot the Perform. I used to shoot 4 hours a day. I have never had accuracy like I have at the moment, where basically I can just put the arrow alongside of the arrow if I do a good shot. What happens with me is I do like 5 good shots and then I just do a fluff shot, and I shoot a bad arrow. I was shooting the other day, I was shooting an amazing score for a tournament. First 5 ends were just amazing, and then the sun hit my face and I hadn't had any food and all day and I fatigued, I think. I still shot all right, but it was the difference, you know, in the 5 to 10 points was, you know, it's 5 or 10 points out of a whole round, and it goes from being an extremely good score, like one of the best scores shot in Australia, to, you know, an average good score shot in Australia. So, and that even goes to the world stage. So, you know, like if you can shoot a 700 out of 720 on a world stage, that's a great score. If you shoot a 690, it's still a pretty good score. If you can shoot a 680, well, it's still an okay score, but you're not world class. And that's where you're trying to pick up the little edge. So going back to this bow, I don't know. So it's going to be up to you to make that choice. I am liking the idea of the bigger brace height. Before I shot this video, I would have said go for the short draw. I find it easier, but now having shot both, I'm really considering going to the 8-inch brace height. So hope that's been helpful to you, and with all this consideration given to bows, shoot more arrows, it will definitely pay off. So I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Thanks for watching. Bye.